Welcome to the Consciously Connected podcast.
We're so excited to be jumping into this episode where we're going to really dive into identity shifts and actually, as an individual, what that creates, not only in yourself, but then how that impacts every relationship in your life. Relationship with your intimate partner, relationships with friends and family, relationships with clients and coworkers, and relationships with your kids. Like the evolution of you and the identity of you becoming as you continue to go through life, and how that can impact your relationships, how to deal with it, how to manage it, how to lead yourself and the energy within it to create more fulfilling, deep connected spaces where you feel like you can still grow and thrive, but also take those along with you, release the ones that don't fit, really own and anchor into what an identity shift may look like and how it's impactful to yourself and to others. And we're going to dive into some personal stories about how we have gone through so many identity shifts in and within our relationship and within our business, and how that's impacted ourselves, our life, and the many evolutions of seasons that we've gone through and how we've navigated them as a couple.
Yeah, I think it's super important to have this talk. I haven't heard many of these talks. We always hear like till death do us part and you'll be my best friend for life and all these things. That I love that idea, but in order for that idea to come to fruition, there's a lot of things in the middle that have to take place. And this is this identity shift. And then what does that mean about you? And then what does that mean about the relationship dynamic you're in? And then how do you lead it? How do you evolve it? And how do your people you're relating to evolve in order to get on board with the new identity? Because there are going to be different layers. I know different layers of our identity, like we couldn't expect. Like I didn't expect this. I didn't expect that. And so
Yeah.
you have to kind of adapt and grow as you move and evolve.
Yeah, it's like this beautiful mess. Like, always like, it's beautiful
Yes.
of the becoming, but it's like completely freaking messy sometimes, and it can feel very chaotic. And I feel like in the past, we've been together, what, 12 plus years? And in the past 10 years specifically, the level of identity shifts that have come into our own individual being at different times in different places, and how that's and like really deeply impacted us as a couple, impacted what we do in the world and our purpose and who is in our circle, who's in our world. And then even with like family and the evolution of that and what that may look like, and setting different boundaries, setting different standards for yourself, and really making sure that you don't move in a way, because we can do this, like we can move in a way where we feel like, if I change, if I grow and evolve, then I'm going to have some sort of loss. I'm going to lose people. They're not going to want to come with me, or I'm going to outgrow them. And we sometimes think about this consciously, but a lot of times this is unconscious, this subconscious. And we feel like if we grow and evolve past people, then on some level, we're going to have that deepest wound of fear of rejection, fear of abandonment being activated, not seen and heard, be triggering, be misunderstood. As a feminine, all those things are like, I'm just gonna stay in my comfort zone. I'm gonna stay in my space. Like I'm gonna play small. I'm gonna dim my light. And in doing that, you really hinder like who you're meant to become, and you actually enable people to stay in their own space. And then I
Yeah.
know as the masculine, you can really dive into that as
Oh
well. But
man. I mean, that feeling of the resistance to change for men is really high because it's not because we don't want better. It's we're afraid to lose what we have. And like that abandonment or that fear of not being loved or losing love, it scares men to death. And so
yeah,
men, they resist change and they resist their shifts in their own identity, knowing that and a lot of the identity shifts are maturity, you know, as men. But we hold on to this immaturity because that immaturity got loved. And we don't know if we change to this level, will I be loved the same way? And so we tend to try to limit our capacity for shifts so that we can hold on to the idea of love. But I think what we don't realize is like allowing ourselves to mature in love gives us a greatest form of it and gives us the greatest form of relationships with somebody.
yeah. And I think like we can obviously dive into, and this, we could probably make three different episodes on just this one
Yes.
topic. But it's like obviously dealing with your own identity shift and what that kind of can create within yourself.
Yeah.
And and it feeling scary, it feeling like you are kind of unsure of what actually is going on, like being in your own body through an identity shift and feeling like, holy shit, like what is happening to me? What's going on? The void of things, the pain that you can necessarily or that you can definitely feel in these times, but then how that impacts other people. And so when we think about when we go through changes, the containers of which we live in, the relationships that we have, the business that we're running, like everything has to evolve and change with us, or it can't go with us. And that can feel very scary. And when
Yes.
you're in this space where you're like, you don't even know who you're becoming, and sometimes, or you don't even understand it, it's like there's some pivotal things that you can anchor into through an identity shift, and then actually allowing the natural evolution of what's meant to happen without trying to keep something the same. Because you can't become a new person, you can't evolve into a new level of becoming who you truly are, of like busting past like outdated programs and patterns and the ways that you operate and habits and the ways that we move in our belief systems. Like you can't create a different reality from the same identity. So identities have to shift to continue to grow and evolve. And so it's like really asking yourself, am I more committed to staying the same so I can stay in my comfort zone? Or am I more committed to allowing identity shifts to change me and therefore change my environment, my relationships? And then how can I navigate all of that in the most empowered, um, conscious way?
Yeah, I mean, that right there, just the idea that as we grow in identity or maturity or whatever it is, the place we're in has to grow with us. Because you can't hold on to the place and try to say, I'm going to evolve past it, but I'm going to hold on to it. That thing will always pull you back down. So if I'm in this container and I'm growing outside of it, then the container needs to grow with me or needs to evolve with me on some level. And it's really important. I think a lot of times we think that the relationships we're involved with, they can stay the same as we grow, but they can't because that version of us that relationship was built on, that friendship, that family relationship, that intimate relationship, that business relationship is we're no longer that guy or that woman, right? And so if we're growing differently, then the relationship has to evolve to the level that we are at now. And that means our partners have to evolve with us, or they have to be willing to shift the dynamic so that we can meet each other.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the hardest things. So we talk a lot about like mini relationships, but it's like when it's your most intimate relationship,
Oh,
that's the person you're doing life with, is the person every single day that you're navigating things with. And this can feel like a time either in your own self where it's like my identity shifting, and this can feel very scary. It can feel unknown. It can feel like you have this stirring in your soul that you want different, and you can even start becoming different to a degree, and it can ignite a lot of ripple in your relationship, because we attract people with where we're at, the identity that we're at,
yes.
the wounds that we're operating from, the level of consciousness that we're at. We attract people and they are a mirror. And we
Mhm.
create early on in building even a conscious relationship, we attract people that are a mood match, that are a mirror to the wounds that we ultimately are meant to ascend through. This is our deep, deep belief and understanding of relationships. And so when you start changing and you start changing that dynamic a little bit, or you start evolving past those wounds that have been the thing that attracted you in the first place, the other person can start feeling resistance. They can start feeling fear. They can start feeling like, what's happening? What are you doing? You're changing. You're no longer this wound match. You're no longer participating in the same antics and dynamics that we've been thriving in, even though you haven't been thriving in. It's like, I've like anchored into this dynamic, yet someone starts changing and it's like it rattles the boat a little bit. It starts
Yeah.
like, and that can ignite deep, deep unconscious and subconscious fear. It can ignite someone to feel activated, to also want to grow
Mhm.
and evolve in the relationship. I mean, there's so many different things that can happen. It's not all negative. Like, there's been so many times where I was activated to grow, or you were activated to grow, and you started doing so. And the other one was like, "Okay, like, pony up, like, it's my time," like, you
Yes.
know? And there's
Yeah.
been other times where it was very triggering, where it was very dismantling of who we were while the other person's evolving and changing. And then it's also, like, this space where it's like, as we're going through these changes and not fully understanding it, therefore not knowing 100% how to communicate it, it's like just taking on and anchoring into, like, we're going to evolve every second, we're going to evolve, and the moment that we allow or decide that we're going to be complacent or we need to stay the same for safety, it's the moment that you're like going to get royally pained in the ass, like you're going to feel all the pain, because it's definitely going to rock you. And
Yes.
so I think the core thing above everything is like, you have to know, and I know it's like we can consciously say this. Like, of course, I'm going to change over the course of the years. Of course, I'm going to grow. Of course, I'm going to evolve. Of course, things are going to come into my world that rock who I am and change who I am. Like, everyone consciously knows this. But when you're actually in it and it's happening, that's when it's like, okay, like, we have to bring consciousness to it and then be able to transcend it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's super important, like what you were just saying right there. A lot of the issue of the dynamic shift isn't the person shifting the dynamic, it's the person that's watching the other person shift. And it's like, what does this mean about me? That they're
Yeah.
doing this, that they're going here. What does that mean about us? What does that mean about me to them? What is my importance? What is my significance in this? And then they start to question their own story about, and they start to create stories about what is happening versus what isn't happening. They're trying to outgrow me. They're going to leave me. Da 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 da. And and this is where the idea of like being conscious about these things, knowing that two individuals are going to shift sometimes together, sometimes individually, but they're going to shift multiple times within a relational dynamic. It doesn't matter what the dynamic is. And their shift doesn't mean anything about you. It's just the next level for them. And you have to see them and be willing to grow with them or grow out from them, right? At the end of the day, because that's kind of the game. It's either I'm going to move with them and grow and evolve myself to be in this dynamic, or I'm going to find another dynamic. And either way, it's not an issue. Either way, it's a choice. This might not feel great sometimes to leave a relational dynamic because the other person wouldn't get on board, but you got to make those choices. But denying yourself the evolvement, denying yourself the identity shift, denying yourself the growth to keep the other person there doesn't serve the place, right? It doesn't serve you, doesn't serve them, doesn't serve y'all. And so the idea of shifting your identity to be better will only help all people involved, even if all people don't stay.
Yeah, and I think we could give, like, some nuanced examples. I mean, obviously, we can give, and we plan to, like, divulge some examples of our own journey here, but just to kinda give, like, a surface-based kind of physical identity shift. So let's say, like, one person in the relationship all of a sudden decides, like, I'm going to get super healthy. I'm going to start focusing on my health goals. I'm going to go to the gym every day. I'm going to start eating healthy. I'm going to start moving more. Like, I'm going to focus solely on like transcending my physical
Yes.
appearance, my physical
Yes.
body, my physical appearance. So, and we see this often, but it's like all of a sudden that person starts changing their world to do that. And that's gonna change dynamics that maybe were a part of their relationship, where it's like, okay, 1, they're starting to get healthy, they're gonna get hot and sexy, and that's threatening because they're no
Yes.
longer like the frump a dump with me on the couch, like, getting ice cream at night, you know? Or
My
it's
favorite.
like
Trump and Dump.
We felt like that many times, but it's like, or they start, changing their behavior. They start focusing on themselves more. And it's like, wait a minute, like, why are you so self indulged? Like, what are you trying to do? Like, and then it's constantly a mirror to what you're not doing for your own self. It's a mirror to
Yes.
you not taking care of yourself. Whereas before you had a partner in crime and you being lazy, as fuck and like sitting on the couch and like binge watching Netflix and eating a tub of ice cream at night and like, hey, like where are we going to eat? Like that's your whole identity is built around that. And then it's like, okay, what's for dinner? And like you want all the good tasting stuff. And then you're like, okay, we're gonna get dessert every night. And then all of a sudden the person's like, no, that's not really like what I'm gonna do, or oh, I'm meal prepping. And then you're like, wait a minute, like this connection, this bond that we had around this thing that was keeping both people playing small and an identity that they didn't necessarily both need or want to be in truly. But then there's
Yeah.
like this mirror all of a sudden of like, wait a minute, like now I'm a lazy ass and I'm watching I'm watching them like grow and evolve, and it's that activation of where you're still playing small or where
Yeah.
you're not fueling and taking care of your own self, and that can feel triggering, especially if somebody's not ready in their own self and their own identity to take that charge for themselves. And that's just a very surface based answer, but like all the fears that come along with that, like, what if they meet somebody at the gym? Like, what if they're looking at other people that are hot? Like, what if they are no longer attracted to me? What if they get super sexy and they're way past my like league? They're out of my league. Like, all these things, and a lot of them aren't conscious, but some of them are. But it's like all these things start happening. It's like the disruption of that. What winds up happening is either one of two things. Either it's going to activate the other person to start prioritizing themselves and their health and kind of be like an energy is like, okay, well, let's do this together. Like, let's grow and
Hmm.
evolve together in this. Or it's going to be like a trigger. And then that person is probably going to do everything they can to bring that person back down into their orbit. Like,
Yeah.
criticizing the gym, criticizing them and their workouts, like talking shit, passive aggressive little comments about their food, about like little things that then make the other person feel like I'm losing love. I'm not accepted for this. This doesn't feel good. And then they either are going to have the grit to stand in that power, speak boundaries, hold standards, activate through the lighthouse energy, or it will sabotage their identity shift to become a healthier
Yes.
person. It will sabotage that, and then they will come back to complacency or back to comfort zone or
Hmm.
back to serving the energy that the other person's trying to pull them down in.
Yeah. I mean, just imagine that's just health, right? Can you imagine like career changes? Can you imagine involvement in your own like masculine, feminine energy, your own power, your own leadership, and like what is that? What people make that mean about them because one person is evolving, that person will have a direct effect on how that relationship evolves because they're either going to leave it or they're going to try to pull you down or they're going to jump on board. And so understanding like the surface level of health and how complex that is and what it can cause within a relational dynamic. Just imagine trying to be a better husband, be a better wife, be a better parent, make more money,
Hmm.
become like an influencer, become an impactor in the world. All these things have plays on other people's minds because it's not about you. It's about you reminding them of what they're not doing, of what they're not being, and what they're not choosing for themselves. And it's also a reminder of what you used to choose and what you used to be, and then you decided to be different. And it's like, why did they want to be different? Am I not good enough? Da 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 da. And then they have these stories. And so all these stories
Yeah.
kind of run around and you start chasing each other and if you're not, like you said, if you're not able to stand on your own and have leadership of self and be the lighthouse leader, you're going to go and try to navigate their boat, make them feel better about the dynamic, and you're going to be back in the rat race. And so that idea of you shifting is going to disappear. And you're probably going to start dimming your own light in order to fit into places instead of being the lighthouse and let people fit with you.
Yeah, and there's another little dynamic that happens too, where it's like when someone starts changing and they start shifting their identity, and they want that person to come with them. And I experience this a lot with women that I work with, where it's like they're growing and evolving, they're investing in their growth, they're shifting their identity, they're becoming more, they're starting to make more money in their business, they're growing and evolving in their consciousness and who they're being. And they want their partner, their husband, to come along with them. And so then it starts, like, we start going in, and I always say this, like, I know I say it 100 times on this podcast, I'll say it 100 times in my content and in my coaching, but lighthouse energy is different than boat navigator energy. And so it's like
Yes.
what we can do in this moment as the identity shifter, the one who's shifting our identity, is we can start looking at the other person and being like, okay, now I need to pull them with me. I need to go be their boat navigator and they need to come with me. Because if not, then I'm not going to be firm and standing in my light. I'm not going to be firm and standing in my shift because I need them to be this with me for me to be okay in shifting and changing. Or I need them to understand and grow at this level, or I need them to see their wounds, or I need them to work on their health because now all of a sudden I feel like I'm going this way, so they need to come. And what we wind up doing in that energy when we're shifting our identity in that way, we expect the other person to come along. And this could be even with family members or even with friends, where it's like, I need you to do this too. Because then, one, I feel more safe and solid in it, and I feel like I can
Yeah.
do it. Because if I'm out here doing it alone as a lighthouse, it's like, ooh, I don't have other people that I'm like navigating to do it to make sure I'm safe and good with it. But it's also like this energy where now, instead of just focusing on yourself and your own ascension and your own thing, now it's like, okay, I need to self abandon and focus on them to make sure
Mhm.
they're coming with me. Cause if not, I'm going to lose them. Or if not, like I might outgrow them. And this is sometimes unconscious behavior, but it's like this energy where, okay, now I'm constantly every day going to make this person feel like shit, or like that they're a bad person, or that they're for staying in the identity that I was participating in with them. And now I need them to change with me. And we become the awakeners. We become the people who need to judge the other person or criticize the other person if they're not moving at the identity shift speed that we are. Because on some level, if they don't, we fear that. And
Yeah.
then it's, as we're changing, it's like now we're looking at them and we don't respect or appreciate the behavior they're in because we're changing. So then it's like this projection of judgment and criticism and needing them to be something that they didn't ask for, and that can
Yeah.
create disconnect too.
100%. I think that happens. And I mean, we've dealt with and we've done it ourselves, but I think we've seen it in a
Yeah.
lot of couples where one person is in the ascension. And in that ascension, they're judging the other person for not being there with them. And the other person's sitting there going like, I'm happy living my life the way I am right this second. And the other person can't understand their happiness with who they are because they're on this ascension journey and I can see better than you. And then they just start poking down at them instead of like allowing them to decide.
Mhm.
You're trying to force a decision or a choice, and you can allow them to go through their own progression because the one thing that is without failure is that the wake up is individual. I can't make you wake up. You can't make me wake up. We stopped trying to do that shit a long time ago because I told you you got to stop. You told me to stop doing it to you. It just didn't work anymore because I was like,
Yeah.
babe, this is driving me crazy. I feel like I'm chasing shit I don't even see.
Yeah.
You were like, I
Yeah.
can understand. And so a lot of times when you're on this ascension, you want the person to come with you so bad because you love them. But the real love is seeing them where they are and allowing them to get there. They're
Mhm.
going to get there. Everybody gets there. It just takes time. And if you force it, you push the time away because you're going to create defensiveness and uh egoic nature comes out of people because they're feeling like they're not good enough and they need to be something better so you'll love them. And that's not the vibe or energy you want either.
Yeah, and I don't know that everybody does get there. It's like
Yeah.
we have different levels of ascension, different levels of our own personal identity. And I know, like, we'll speak this 100 times, even when we work with couples. It's like we're not working with you to save your relationship. We're working with you as two individuals to create an aligned space for you individually and create a power relationship through those things. And if we expect somebody else to be something, then we're holding that as if we're like their navigator of who they are. And so will there be spaces where you are moving and there comes a season where someone else is not meant to continue into a new season? Absolutely. And like this is why a lot of people hinder shifts and growth, because they fear this. And at the end of the day, it is something that does happen. And there's a reality to it. When you shift your identity and you shift your frequency and you ascend your level of vibration, if the other person doesn't at some level come up to that, you will dissolve the season of where you were a match. You will dissolve the season of where you were meant to do life together. And something that we talk about often is we've become so good at this space, like within our own self, that our relationship continues to it's like a teeter totter. Like I'll do, and then you'll come up, and then I like we do this thing, and a lot of times we're on the same page with things to a degree, but not for long. Where it's like one of
Yeah.
us is going to be growing or activating the other, and that's a part of it being in a conscious relationship. But also, we do realize and recognize and have always said, if at any point our relationship is no longer the season that is going to ascend us ourselves to our highest levels of happiness, of fulfillment, of purpose, of where we're meant to go, like we're going to show up all in and we're going to go and do the things. But if at any point we see that the season is over, then it won't be like this big drama thing. It's like we will have a conscious conversation about that and what that actually looks
Yeah.
like. And can we get on the same page? What does it look like for the next season? But I think so many people take that and they're like, they will allow a season to end and they will destroy a relationship long before it actually needed to, because they're operating from these spaces of what we're talking about in this episode, where it's like the other thing that is a reflector is if you're identity shifting and you're growing somewhere, is also like obviously not being their awakener, but it's also understanding the dynamics and where they're at. And something we had to
Yes.
transcend and grow through was like, hey, I'm going this way and this is me, but I see you for where you're at and I love you for where you're at. And being it's like it's the difference of being judgment and criticizing of you growing and where they're
Yeah.
still at versus still showing up with love. And like, so for example, when I'm changing and I'm growing in my identity, in like before we understood this, I would maybe judge and criticize you for where you weren't yet or where you weren't coming or what you weren't doing and all these things. And then after I kind of transcended this to a little bit, then it's more like I was more communicative about where I
Yeah.
was. If I saw that you were triggered in fear about where I was going, I would be more loving to you and understanding that this is scary. Like I'm changing and I'm moving, and instead of judging and criticizing you or for like you showing up with like trying to, it's like you tell this story all the time and I'll let you tell it about the crabs, but it's like this space where you're moving and evolving, and instead of like and me seeing you and like seeing you try and like not pull me back down, but just create safety in
Yeah.
yourself. It was more so like instead of being triggered by that, it was more so like pouring love into you, communicating where I'm at,
Mhm.
like expanding our relationship by talking about where I'm at. For example, the most recent one is like this huge shift in my hormones and perimenopause and coming into a whole different identity where I like sometimes don't even recognize myself.
No.
And being able to know that who I'm being sometimes is triggering, and know who I'm being sometimes isn't necessarily feel good to you. And it's not that I can help it,
No.
but it's like also showing you love and understanding of like, hey, I'm changing. And I know this isn't like this is a lot. Or like when you were
Mhm.
going through your little midlife thing, and it's like,
Yes. And,
you
I
know,
mean, we talked about this like yesterday or the day before. I was just like, this is difficult, yes, but I'm willing to grow into this to serve this season the best because you're so communicative about where you are. Like you're like, look, every day I can't predict. Every day I don't know what the fuck version you're going to get of me, but I'm here. I love you. It might not feel that way sometimes because I feel crazy. And I was like, I get it. I'm like, and I'm going to fuck up some because I'm trying to figure out the best ways to serve you in this season because I know like how you're showing up is not who you truly are, but it's what you're going through in this moment. And it's part of your identity shift and maturity as a woman. And so I got to mature as a man. I got to show up differently as a leader. I got to show up differently in my capacity to hold space for your emotions, for the things you're going through in service of you and in service of our relationship. And and the only way that's happened is because throughout our relationship, we've gone through these things. And I remember like two profound ones, like 10 years ago or 9 years ago, you coming to me and were like, hey, I love you a lot. I love you more than anything. And I want to do this life with you. But what we're doing right now isn't working for our life. And I want to go here. And I would love for you to go with me, but I also understand you don't have to go and you get to choose. I remember you saying that word to me, and I'm like, and I want you to think about that. I want
Yeah.
you to think, like, do you want to make that choice and go? If you do, I want you. I want you beside me. If not, then we can decide. We can move apart and it'd be okay. Like I'm gonna love you forever. And and you're like, but you need to leave the house till you figure it out. And I remember that. But yeah, and so like, I got on board and really thought about like, all right, is this something I want to do? And then maybe 6 to 8 months later, I had the conversation with you, a different conversations. Like, I love you more than anything. I will put my life on lay it down on the street for you any day of the week. But the work that I'm doing now for me has nothing to do with you. But you're going to receive the benefit of it. And I want you to be there with me to go through it together. And you're like, all right, I'm on board. I remember you're like, let's go. But it was the same way. Like, we're willing to communicate where we are and where we're growing and not just growing like, I'm just going to go and not tell you shit. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sneaking
Yeah.
off to the gym or I'm taking these courses or I'm taking that class. I hired a coach. You don't know shit. I'm just getting better. No, like we talk about these things because we want each other to be on board to see us and realize like, hey, he's not trying to leave me or she's not trying to outgrow me. She's just evolving as a human.
Yeah, and I think, like, this isn't something that came natural,
No.
this is something we evolved into, and now this is a lot of the work we do with individuals and with couples. It's like
Yes.
navigating this space because it can lead to disconnect, extreme
Yes.
disconnect. It can lead to separation, it can lead to breakups, it can lead to friendships falling apart, it can lead to like fractures in family dynamics where you have sisters and brothers and parents who don't speak to each other. And so there's so many different involvements in what it may look like, and you have to take responsibility as the person who's shifting your identity for your own self and being a lighthouse, taking responsibility and understanding the identity shift, coming into clarity, and then being able to navigate that with the people in your world. And sometimes from a space of setting boundaries, sometimes from a space of communicating standards, sometimes from a space of, hey, I love you and this is what I'm doing for myself. It has nothing like against you. I would love for you to come with me, but if you don't want to, that's okay. Like I can love you with
Mhm.
for where you're at, and we can either figure it out and navigate it, or we can't. And so we help, so many through this process because we've done it and we've done it multiple times. And we
Yeah.
could give like 1,000 examples, but thinking about like that one you were just talking about, there was one even before that when I came and I'm like, hey, I think I'm in a place where I'm ready to leave teaching. And because, if you're listening to this and you don't know, we were both teachers in a past life, in a
In a
and
form
in
of
the
life.
and um in our first career. And I got to a place, and I know there was like even some identity shifts in that previous to that, where I kind of like shifted from, hey, we're two teachers, we're living this like normal life where and I started, this side
Normal.
business.
He said normal life.
Yeah, I did air quotes, normal life. And then I started this side business and kind of blew up, and I was getting recognized on stages, and I was flourishing, and I was losing weight, and I was on fire with life. And you had to adjust to all the things I was doing. Now, granted, at that time, you were very thrilled by it because you also were kind of in that energy in that space.
Yeah.
It could have looked very different. And back then, when I had a lot of people that were under me that were dealing with that, or their spouses were very triggered by their growth, and like, wait a minute, you're in this community and you're growing and you're losing weight and you're on fire and passionate every day, you're doing personal growth and development, like, hold the fuck up.
Yes.
And then it became like, we had kind of evolved together, but then it did come like, hey, I want to leave my teaching career. And that was very like scary for both of us. And I had my own fears and my own identity shifts that were happening. And then after I did it, like the shifts of becoming full-time entrepreneur while you were still like and I was in the house every single day, and I had lost kind of like my teaching community, which
Yeah.
I deeply thrive in community. And you were gone every day. And I'm like, you had to
Because
deal with that.
yeah, we were both going through a professional identity shift. Like I
Yeah.
was stepping into corporate America for the first time
Mm-hmm.
in my life, and I was working I was on the road all day long, every day, all the time. And then when I was at home, I was working all the time. And you were grinding to build your business out as a solo entrepreneur. And so we had to adjust our own relational dynamics to match our new professional identity
Mm-hmm.
because it adjusted. And we had to have talks about that. Like, hey, we're not doing a lot of connecting here. Like we're doing a lot of working, not a lot of connecting. And so we had to go through that. And then even when I moved into entrepreneurship, we still had to adjust again because that's a whole different ballgame from corporate America back to, hey, we're managing ourselves and managing each other. And what does that look like? How does that feel? How do we work together all the time? It's a very interesting dynamic. Like to see like this constant involvement of two people and the willingness by two people to show up for the involvement of each other.
Yeah. And over the years, we have evolved, and we've had friends that then, we evolved out of, or it kind of things shifted, or we grew different in levels of like what we really desired in friendship, whether it be, deeper connection or more value or more whatever it may be. And and those things shifted, or whether it be like we noticed, hey, we're living this life that we really enjoy and
Yeah.
like we really care about, but we're missing a huge piece that, like, we got so involved in certain things. It was like we had let a lot of huge pieces of who we truly are like kind of drop the ball on, and we had to like recognize that in ourselves. And at different times it was you first or me first, and those times aren't easy to navigate in a relationship.
Now,
And it and like even the loss of things, whereas like one person may be like, "Okay, this is way better for me, and I'm way better off, and I'm thriving through this change," and the other person's dealing, and it's like feels like I'm not doing well in this change.
yeah.
I'm deeply not in a good place. And that can be triggering because it was like there was different times when our lives were shifting, and you were like, this is good, and you're like ascending and you're growing through the change, and I'm over here like drowning and like,
Yeah.
this is terrible for me, this feels awful. Like I had different things going on with it, and you had to be like, wait, like why, like this is a great thing, and you're looking at me like, why are you so fucking miserable? And I'm like looking at you like, how are you so happy with this? And like I'm struggling. And so we had to like communicate on these things. We had to try and see each other. We have to try and like understand each other. And that's that's deeply hard when you have two people that are shifting different identities and where you're going and what you're doing and the triggers that that creates. And when you create for even a short term a match, of a frequency, a match of an identity, a match of wounds, a match of programs and patterns and habits that you're operating on. And then one of those people no longer is available for that level and they're ready to go to another level. It's like, oh shit, like
That's it
I
right
gotta get,
there.
oh
It's
shit,
like,
I
"Oh,
gotta get on
shit.
board.
What the fuck are we doing?" I just got comfortable, and that's our thing, like, we get it going and we get comfortable, and then it's like, "Oh, time to change again." We barely get settled. They're like, "Time to go again." And
Well, it's
I
like
know
even
how many times every year you're like, "When are we just gonna, like, chill out for a year?" I'm like, "I don't know. Never."
we're not. Like, it's thinking about, like, 2023 even, like, when we were, like, really heavy in a certain, niche and certain groove of our business and what we were doing and how we were doing it, and I, like, literally was, like, not happy in it. You were, like, thriving in it a little bit. I wasn't happy in it, and I'm like, I'm burning this bitch down. Like
Mhm.
I'm done with this level of where my business is and the way that I'm building it and it's not aligned for me. And I remember us having to have these conversations because at that point we had built a pretty big business and we were operating under this business model that was working, air quotes again, it was working and you're like, "Wait, like, this is working, like, we're growing, like, this is going," and I'm over here like, "Yeah, but this feels so out of alignment with who I truly am and what I'm meant to be doing and how I'm meant to be doing it," and so, even involvement in our business and if you're listening to this and you're an individual in business and your husband or your wife is in another realm, it's like when your identity is shifting, it's going to impact not just yourself or not just your relationships. Like it impacted my whole business structure and what I was
Yeah.
meant to be doing. And it was scary because it's scary to be looking at a multi six figure business model and like everything that we had built, and then all of a sudden be like,
We'll do
oh,
something else.
yeah, this
Well,
doesn't work
I
for me.
but shit, I it did you did that then, and then I did it again I did it last year.
Yep.
Like, everything was
Yep.
going good. I was killing it, crushing it, and you're like, "Babe, you're killing it." And then I got to a place, it's like, "I'm dying. I'm dying
Yeah.
right now."
Yep.
Like, something's
Yep.
gotta change, and you're like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "I'm losing it." Like, I love
Well, you
yeah. Yeah, go
you
ahead.
started like you started like, I would see the signs of it. Like, you can start seeing your partner when things start shifting, where it's like they're starting to get out of alignment or ways that they're moving,
Yeah.
is creating this. And in that moment, your identity was shifting but you were in the midst of it, and so it was like it was that space of still trying to hold on to, like, the old
Yes.
identity, and but also being called to rise and evolve, and in that, there was a lot of void, and in that void, there was a lot of, like, lack. There was a lot of things not happening
Yes.
right. There was a lot of things that were draining you or not working for you, and so that energy that you had to go through and grow through to get on the other side was very, like, annoying to me. It was very, like it was very, like, "I don't even wanna be around your energy right now." Like,
Yeah.
you are, like, a negative Nancy, you're a navel gazing, like, you're being, like, a pity party princess, and I gotta go, like
Yeah.
and so we had to really come and talk about it and get to the real of like what's actually going on. And you had to share what you were experiencing, that it had nothing to do with me, even though I was taking it very personal. Some of the things that you were like navigating in that moment, I was taking it personal because of my own stuff or because of our attachment or because of whatever,
Yeah.
and me just wanting you to be happy or me self-abandoning things just so like I was like, why are you not happy? And so, we can take that personal
Yeah.
as a partner, as a friend, but it's like you had to go through that to get on the other side. But it was when
Yeah.
we started communicating about what you was actually going on with you that we were able to get on the same page.
Yeah, well, I think it's also I had to gain some clarity about what was going on with me.
Yeah.
Sometimes at the very beginning of a shift, it feels like chaos, and you feel like you're grasping at straws of what the hell is going on right now. Everything's okay. What is going on? Why am I feel like everything's falling apart? And everything was like
Yeah.
magical. Everything was great. And at the same time, I felt like I was falling apart on the inside. And you're like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. But when I know, I'll tell you. And then I did tell you. And you were like, oh, that makes sense. Like you needed to make
Yeah.
an adjustment to what was an alignment for the person you are in your business. And that's all it was.
Yeah, I think and it came down to 2 main things is one, it's like anchoring into presence, not over explanation,
Yeah.
anchoring into conversation before the disconnect became the reality, and it's like allowing ourselves to really anchor into the fact that we're going to experience this from forever and ever, amen. And if we don't go all in on that process and figure out how to navigate it within our own selves
Yeah.
and within the relationship, then we will forever be disconnected. And we will ever be chasing these things outside of ourselves.
Yes.
And being able to support each other, um, and be able to support each other in grieving our old selves, evolving into our new selves, and really like what it comes down to. And I'll say this again and again and again. I think this is kind of like we can wrap up this episode with this in and of itself is no matter what, anchoring into being a lighthouse in
Mm.
your own self and your own life. And that will transcend any other moment and leading with light and love and leadership rather than any other lens that you could take these identity shifts through that creates like a disconnect with people and realizing that there could be some loss. And that's
Yes.
got to be okay. We've grieved old versions of ourselves. We've lost old versions of ourselves. We've been able to evolve through it because of the skills we gained and because we do what we do.
Hmm.
But there's some times that we've had to release, people in our lives. We've had to change the different relationships and dynamics with people in our lives. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
Um, but I think, at the end of the day, it's like lighthouse energy over everything. And then also, I will say this over and over and over and over and over again getting support from a coach, from a mentor, from somebody who's walking the walk and understands this work and like can help you and guide you and lead you in it and be like the mirror of it, be the person who can show these things to you so that you can lead yourself more powerfully through an identity shift, so you can anchor into yourself more powerfully and then operate outside of yourself so you don't lose relationships, so you don't
Yes.
sabotage yourself, like all these things, like hiring an identity coach, hiring people that are going to be able to truly be supportive and helping you and move through these things is game changer. It
Yes.
literally changed the game for both of us.
100%. And with that being said, I think there's some more. We're probably going to do a second episode of this because there's some really like going through the shifts and the navigation of that within self and then with people. It's
Yeah.
important and really knowing the nuances of that because we've been through so many and we've helped
Yeah.
people through so many. And so I think our next episode, we'll talk about that a good bit. I think it'd be fun to really just let people on the inside of that and what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. We like to keep our
Yeah.
episodes, fairly small and digestible. So we'll wrap this one, but we will continue this topic because it's so many nuances and we know it's such a heavy thing. And it's also such a powerful thing that can
Yes.
literally and radically change your entire existence of becoming who you're truly meant to be and not playing small and not dimming and not keeping yourself in a box and not staying in your comfort zone and not staying complacent. Like, there's so many things that have nuances to this that we could dive into. So, if you're somebody who knows that you're ready to rise, you're an identity shift, you want your relationships to be the most powerful, you want to grow with your partner, you want to grow with the people in your world, you want to do it in a way that you can become exactly who you're meant to be the exact ways that you can do it in the most powerful way. Check the call notes, reach out. I know we have some amazing offers coming up. I'm taking on private clients. I know you are.
Mhm.
Um, and this is like our superpower and this is what we do. So if you're feeling called to be supported through identity shifts, through your relationship dynamics to become exactly who you're meant to be, but also have deeply consciously connected spaces, in intimate partnership, in families, and in relationships with friends, then, you know, check
It's
us out.
time to get after it.
Yep.
100%.
All right, guys.
All right,
We'll
guys.
see you on the
Thank you.
next episode.
Bye, guys.
Bye.